Thanks for clicking to watch this video, and thanks to those of you that submitted your questions for this Facebook Friday Q&A. Again, these Q&A episodes are every Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on OTRSCentral. The information on how to take part, submit your questions, maybe get them answered, is in the description box down below. Now, before we get started with this Q&A, just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about something first, if you don't mind. I hope you don't mind, because I'm going to talk about it anyway. Some of you may or may not know, if you're on Facebook, that today would have been Smokey's 9th birthday. And, you know, it's been, 9 months now since he passed. And I still miss that damn cat an incredible deal. I think about him and Precious and Feisty every day. And, you know, it's funny how time flies, sadly, too, sometimes. But, you know, when I was thinking about him today, you know, I think about him every day. And every time I think about him, I always get this big smile on my face. You know, it's always a good memory to think about something involving Smokey. You know, he's a big, lovable teddy bear who had his own attitude about him, too. And what I loved about that cat was the fact that he lived his life his way on his terms, and he went out the way he wanted to go out. And that's the way I look at it, man. And, you know, when I started doing the whole Smokey character, I wasn't sure how I was going to get over. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I wasn't sure if people were going to get behind it or not. But I was hoping so. And I'm glad, slowly but surely, Smokey gained traction, gained a foothold, and got, I thought, a nice size following that, surprisingly to me, didn't decrease, but actually increased over time, where people that once didn't like the character and hated seeing the talking cat actually were pining for him and wanted him to be on there, and were mad when they didn't get Smokey. You know, I always think about Smokey, too. You know, it sucks doing these videos without the old gang, and it also sucks doing it without Smokey too, because to me it was more fun that way, and it definitely was a lot of fun with him. You know, he was always a star in his attitude, make no mistake about it, and he had those days where he wanted to do business my way in terms of recording, and then he had days where he did business Smokey's way on Smokey's time. Can't tell you how many times I'd sit there and have to do numerous retakes because he would just halfway through he'd go right off the camera and go lick himself, or, you know, do anything else that a 30-pound big brain sexy pussycat would want to do. I hope you guys enjoyed him, and I hope you guys found a lot of amusement out of him. You know, because I know I sure did, and I miss him to death. Anyways, happy birthday, Smokey. I wish you were here. I know Summer wishes you were here. You know, she's chewing on a rawhide right now. At least you put her in the deuces and fours before you went, and at least you let her have a couple slumber parties with you. All right, so let's get started with this Q&A. You feel free to chime in with your favorite thought or memory about Smokey if you want. It'll perk me up a little bit, I suppose. Let's get started with this Q&A, though. David Benz asks, so if WWE is following the plan of Lesnar defeating Cena at SummerSlam and holding the belt till Mania, where he drops it to Reigns, I want your thoughts on this. Right after the epic, I love how you automatically assume it'd be epic, Lesnar-Reigns match, Seth Rollins cashes in and ends Mania as the new champion. Should WrestleMania always end on a high positive note, or is it good to have it end on a high negative note, leaving us in huge shock, forcing us to tune in the next night? Well, it's funny because a lot of the hardcore fans, the internet fans, their favorite WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 17, which can hardly be said it ended in a great high positive note. That's for sure. But I also don't think it was particularly good for the business having Austin heel turn and aligning him with Vince. You know, we've never had somebody cash in their Money in the Bank contract at WrestleMania, and some year that does need to happen. I don't think the timing or the situation is right to do it there with that scenario. I just do not. And I don't even like the fact, if you're going to wait till WrestleMania to go with Reigns, to me, going with Lesnar to do the honors instead of Cena is the cowardly chicken shit way out, and shame on WWE for doing it that way. Have to bring in the part-timer to try and, you know, pass the torch. No, it needs to be Cena that fucking passes the torch, because that's when it's going to work best, period. As far as Seth Rollins cashing in, no, because if you have Reigns win and it's supposed to be his moment, and then Rollins cashes in and then it's his moment, it just kind of gums up the works and confuses things. I really don't like that idea at all. At Nadeem Durrani, should The Rock face The Miz in an A-list versus D-list Hollywood match at Mania? You know, maybe this would have been like SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or Royal Rumble in the road to WrestleMania 28, and you could have given The Rock a tune-up match against The Miz. I'd have been for it. But now in 2014, no interest, no thank you. Straight Edge Punk asks, if Eddie Guerrero never died, would he have won the 2006 Royal Rumble? Could have. I'm not convinced that they would have went that direction, but it's a possibility, I suppose. I just wonder if even if Guerrero was there, if they wouldn't have maybe went with Randy Orton instead, because maybe that was their original intention and plan all along. I don't know. Um, Michael Corvin, since WWE is very fond of using social media nowadays with interacting with fans, would it be a good idea to bring back the Cyber Sunday pay-per-view? Absolutely. It was one of those rare times where the WWE was kind of with the times and was kind of doing something new. And Cyber Sunday, I think, would definitely fit into the WWE kind of model today, and I'm surprised that they're not doing it. Get rid of fucking Hell in a Cell or Battleground and give us that show instead. Chris Yak Parker asked, what are your thoughts on Sting going from TNA to WWE? I've done a video on this on the channel recently. Talking about how I'm kind of torn, because on the one hand, I've always wanted to see Sting go to the WWE. I've always wanted to see what Sting would do in the WWE, but I'm also very realistic, talking about a guy in his mid-50s who can't even apply his own submission maneuver correctly and had to wrestle in a t-shirt the past few years because he wasn't in that greatest shape. And there was always also an appeal to me about Sting in part because he never went to Vince. He never sold out and went to the WWE. So I'm kind of torn, to be honest with you. I'm very torn. Brandon Joyner, in WWE 2K14, there's a mode where you have to beat The Undertaker's streak. Do you think in 2K15 it would be logical to add a mode where you avoid getting buried by John Cena? Yes. It would be believable. When you imagine the challenge, you have to beat Cena. Clean. Holy shit. Good luck with that, people. Good luck with that, gamers! David Verrett, do you think the WWE should bring back Abraham Washington to manage the new nation? No, I do not. I think Professor X or Dr. Xavier or Dr. Woods, Professor Woods, whatever the heck you want to call him, I think he is the perfect manager, the right guy for this group to lead it, in my opinion. Because I think if Abraham Washington led it, it might be a little more militant in nature, where I don't think militant is the way to go with this new nation. It needs to represent the new nation. Emilio Correa asked, would a pay-per-view in South America or Mexico work? The time difference isn't as bad as Europe, but are there enough fans who want it? Well, I'm sure there are enough fans who want it, especially in Mexico. And as far as it working, absolutely it would work. I mean, you know, yeah, you have the infrastructure questions, you have the logistical questions, you know, would you really want to have, let's say, a WrestleMania in Mexico City? I don't know. Should you do maybe a SummerSlam there, or a Survivor Series, or a Royal Rumble? Maybe a Survivor Series, yeah. It could be nice to have one of your big four shows at a venue where you have 80, 90,000 people. Zach Hanlon asked, do you think WWE should eliminate Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and make cell matches more meaningful again? Yes, I think that having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is stupid, because those type of matches should be the culmination to long drawn-out feuds that have storyline, purpose, and reason to culminate in a big Hell in a Cell blow-off match. To sit there and have title feuds and other matches start off in a Hell in a Cell is completely ass backwards to me. I hate it. I think it's ridiculous and stupid. George Morris asks, what was more boring, WCW's last 2 years, WWE's time when Diesel was champ, or WWE now? I'll actually go with WWE's time when Diesel was champion. I think that was the worst of the three. Drew Johnston, do you think the Ascension will get over on the main roster as well as they did on NXT? I think there's a possibility. I think there's a chance, but they could also just be an NXT-only gimmick. I guess only time will tell. But I think there's a good shot. It depends on how they feature them, how they present them, and where they go with them right away. John Snow asked, which manner of booking do you prefer, having a heel champion hold the title for a long period, like the NWA in the 80s, or a face holding the title for a long time, like the 80s WWF? I'll go with the face holding the title, because I think when you're talking about making the media appearances and the public appearances, I think it's easier and more natural to have a good guy, a babyface, make those appearances as opposed to your heel or your villain. And also, when you look at the 80s, Vince made a lot more money, so I'm always going to go with the side that makes more money, because wrestling is a business. It's about making money first and foremost. So you want to go with the way that would make more money, and it seems like Vince has proven that faces having long title reigns and building your company around that's the way to go. Kerry and George asked, do you think Dean Ambrose is more over with the crowd than Roman Reigns, and could you possibly see the two as the two main guys to lead the WWE in the future? I don't know if he's more over with the crowd than Roman Reigns, but he's definitely in that same stratosphere. Maybe you could make that argument. And could they possibly be the two guys? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question. Ambrose could really fit into that kind of CM Punk type of role, that Daniel Bryan type of role, and really become a big star himself, no question. Guy Gorlink asked, do you think that people want guys like Dolph Ziggler to be pushed to the main event scene due to lack of storylines in the mid-card and undercard? No, I think it's one of those things that Dolph Ziggler appeals to certain fans because he does certain things. Maybe there's also a perception, fair or not, but it is a perception, and I think it is somewhat legit, that Ziggler's one of those guys that's talented, but You know, every time he seems to get ready to grab the brass ring, the opportunity is yanked out from under him one way or another, and there's kind of an appeal to that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Ziggler guy. I don't particularly like him that much. I see a lot of Jeff Jarrett in him. Sorry, it's true. I see some imitations of badass Billy Gunn. Again, sorry, it's true. And I think a guy that flops around and sells like hell doesn't necessarily make a main event star. Just my opinion. My opinion. Chris Canine asks, who would you characterize as the biggest bust of the PG era in a sense that he was booked really well and featured really well, but failed to capitalize on it? Vladimir Kozlov. They had him go on, what, a year-long undefeated streak or some shit like that, and nothing ever came of it. It was a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted effort, a lot of wasted energy, and a lot of wasted money trying to push this guy. I don't know what the fuck they ever saw in him, but they pushed him big and got nothing out of it. Alan Summers asked, why do people use the term smart when it's an oxymoron? How can you be a smart mark, a.k.a. smart, when marks supposedly believe everything they see or hear as it relates to wrestling, i.e. Kane and Taker are actually brothers? Any smart wrestling fan would not do such things. Yeah. You know, see, this is the whole thing of just because people are in the wrestling business, that doesn't mean that they know what the fuck they're talking about. And in fact, you will find that some of the biggest idiots when it comes to talking about professional wrestling are those idiots in the professional wrestling business or that have been in the professional wrestling business. It makes no sense. Like you said, a mark, by its true definition, is somebody that's supposed to believe in all the bullshit. Well, how can you be a smart man? That makes no fucking sense. It makes sense in wrestling fans or wrestling business is mind, so to speak. It makes sense in the minds of fans who try to sit there and suck up to these fucking wrestlers and wrestling people like that's going to make them stand out or make them be viewed any more special by those people. But it doesn't really make sense in reality. And Cody Doucette closes out this Facebook Friday Q&A by asking, who do you think will win the 2015 Royal Rumble? I think if I had to put money on it right now, I would go with Roman Reigns. You always had your bets and say there's a possibility with Cena. There's always a possibility with Cena. But right now, I would have to believe and think that barring an injury or a dramatic shift in creative focus or philosophies, that it's going to be Roman Reigns that wins the 2015 Royal Rumble. But I guess we'll find out in what, 5 plus 6 months? Yeah, 6 months or so. We'll find out then. Thanks to all of you again that submitted your questions for this Friday Q&A. Check back again Monday for another edition of the Q&A series. Make sure you check out the SummerSlam review series here on this channel. I believe I'm through SummerSlam 1993 now as of this recording. Make sure you check out some of the other great content here all week long on this very channel, OTRS Central. I miss you, Smokey. I wish you were here. You damn right. Hope you're eating a big cheeseburger in the sky.